In a land where traditions run deep and cultures collide, love across borders tells the story of Amina, a proud Hausa woman from the north, and Chinedu, a resilient Igbo man from the east, whose chance meeting sparks a love that defies societal expectations. As they navigate family opposition, cultural differences, and the challenges of building a life together, their journey becomes one of courage, compromise, and unity. From vibrant festivals to quiet moments of reflection, this tale explores how love can bridge divides, shape identities, and leave a lasting legacy for future generations. Join Amina and Chinedu on an unforgettable journey of heart, culture, and triumph. In a small village was surrounded by rolling hills of northern Nigeria, where the scent of millet and guinea corn filled the air, lived Amina, a young woman with eyes as deep as the night sky. Her beauty was unmatched, her laughter like music that danced through the streets. In the southern part of the country, in a bustling town surrounded by palm trees, lived Chinedu, a man whose heart carried the rhythm of Igbo drums and whose hands were calloused from hard work. Their worlds were different, Hausa and Igbo, north and south, but fate had other plans. One day, during a cultural exchange festival organized to promote unity among tribes, Amina and Chinedu met. She was wearing an elegant geli wrapped around her head, while he wore a vibrant agbada borrowed for the occasion. As their eyes locked across the crowded square, time seemed to stand still. "Who is that?" Amina whispered to her friend, pointing toward Chinedu. "He looks so different." Chinedu approached her cautiously, his voice tinged with nervousness but also curiosity. "Salam alaikum," he greeted, trying out the Hausa phrase he'd learned just hours before. Amina smiled warmly, responding in perfect Arabic accented Hausa, "Wa alaikum salam." They began talking, sharing stories about their lives, their dreams, and their cultures. By the end of the evening, they exchanged phone numbers, neither knowing how this chance encounter would change everything. A few weeks later, they found themselves chatting daily over long-distance calls. Amina marveled at Chinedu's passion for carpentry, something she'd never considered artful until hearing him describe it. He admired her dedication to teaching children in her village, seeing in her a strength and compassion rare even among elders. "You know," Chinedu said one evening, "if we weren't separated by miles, I'd ask your father if I could marry you tomorrow." Amina laughed softly, though her heart raced at the thought. "And what makes you think my father would agree? You're not exactly rich." "Rich or poor, love doesn't count coins," Chinedu replied firmly. "It counts hearts. And yours has already captured mine." Those words stayed with Amina long after the call ended, igniting hope within her chest. But reality soon crept in. When Amina told her parents about Chinedu, their reaction was swift and unyielding. "A boy from the south? From a poor family," her mother exclaimed, shaking her head. "We cannot allow such a union." Her father, a respected elder in the community, added sternly, "Our daughter deserves better than someone who struggles to feed himself." Amina tried to argue, explaining how much they cared for each other, but her words fell on deaf ears. That night, alone in her room, tears streamed down her face as she wondered whether true love could ever overcome such barriers. The next morning, Amina decided to visit her uncle, Malem Yusuf, hoping for advice. Known for his wisdom, he listened intently as she recounted her dilemma. "Love is beautiful," he began slowly, stroking his beard, "but marriage is more than feelings. It's about compatibility, respect, and yes, sometimes wealth plays a role too." His words stung, but Amina nodded, understanding the weight of tradition in their culture. Meanwhile, Chinedu faced challenges of his own. Back home in Enugu, his family celebrated his growing relationship with Amina, proud that he'd caught the eye of a Hausa princess. However, when news reached them of Amina's parents' opposition, worry lines creased their faces. "Son," his father said gently, "you must prove yourself worthy. Show them you can provide for her, no matter our current circumstances." Determined, Chinedu worked tirelessly, taking extra shifts at the carpentry shop and saving every naira. One day, inspired by tales of traditional Hausa weddings, he crafted a stunning wooden dowry box adorned with intricate designs. "This will show them I value their customs," he declared confidently. When Amina saw pictures of the box, sent via WhatsApp, her heart swelled with pride. He truly understands me, she murmured, clutching her phone tightly. Yet, doubt lingered, could her parents ever see past their prejudices? As days turned into weeks, both families grew restless. Amina's mother visited relatives, seeking counsel, while Chinedu's siblings prayed fervently for divine intervention. Tensions mounted, yet amidst the chaos, Amina and Chinedu clung to each other, drawing strength from their shared dreams. Through video calls, they practiced Hausa proverbs together, laughing at mispronunciations and finding joy in small victories. One evening, during a heated discussion with her father, Amina blurted out, "If you don't let us be together, then maybe I'll leave this house forever." Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Her father sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. "Daughter," he said finally, "I only want what's best for you. But promise me you won't rush into anything without thinking carefully." Tears welled up in Amina's eyes, but she nodded solemnly. For now, all she could do was wait and hope. Weeks passed, and Chinedu made preparations to travel north, determined to meet Amina's parents formally. Before leaving, he sought blessings from his village priest, who blessed the dowry box and urged him to remain humble. Remember, the priest advised, respect goes further than riches. Upon arrival in Amina's village, Chinedu felt both excitement and fear. Dressed in his finest agboda, he presented himself at Amina's doorstep, accompanied by Malem Yusuf, whom he'd asked to vouch for him. Inside, Amina waited anxiously, her heart pounding like a drumbeat. Her father greeted Chinedu coolly, gesturing for him to sit. After exchanging pleasantries, Chinedu placed the dowry box on the table. "This is my gift to your family," he explained respectfully, opening the lid to reveal its contents, beautifully carved items symbolizing prosperity, fertility, and unity. Gasps rippled through the room as everyone admired the craftsmanship. Impressed, Amina's mother leaned closer, whispering to her husband, "Perhaps there's more to this boy than meets the eye." Still skeptical, her father pressed on, asking questions about Chinedu's background, education, and future plans. Each answer came forth with sincerity, dispelling doubts one by one. Later that evening, Amina cornered her father privately. "Baba," she pleaded, "didn't you feel something when you saw how hard he worked for us? Isn't that worth considering?" Her father hesitated, torn between tradition and his daughter's happiness. By the end of the visit, Chinedu left empty-handed but hopeful. Though no firm decision had been made, he sensed progress. Back home, he doubled down on improving his business, envisioning a life where Amina wouldn't have to sacrifice comfort for love. For Amina, patience became her greatest ally. She continued advocating for Chinedu, reminding her parents of the values they taught her: kindness, perseverance, and fairness. Slowly, cracks appeared in their resolve, hinting at the possibility of compromise. Yet, deeper issues loomed: cultural differences, societal expectations, and lingering biases. Would these obstacles prove insurmountable, or would love prevail? Months passed, and the tension between Amina's family and Chinedu simmered like a pot left unattended on the fire. Chinedu returned to Enugu, his heart heavy but his spirit undeterred. He poured himself into his work, expanding his carpentry business and learning more about Hausa traditions. Every piece of furniture he crafted was infused with the hope that someday, Amina would see him as her father did, a man worthy of respect. Amina, meanwhile, faced mounting pressure from her parents. Her mother constantly reminded her of the suitors who came knocking at their door, wealthy men from prominent families in the village. "Why waste your life on someone who struggles to make ends meet?" she would say, her tone laced with concern. But Amina remained steadfast. She knew what her heart wanted, even if it meant defying tradition. One day, Malem Yusuf visited Amina with news. "Your friend Chinedu has been working tirelessly," he said, sitting beside her in the courtyard. "He recently completed a large order for a school in Kano, and they paid him well. He's saving every kobo for you too." Amina felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. Despite everything, Chinedu never gave up. Encouraged by Malem Yusuf's report, Amina decided to take matters into her own hands. She approached her father during one of his rare moments of calm. "Baba," she began softly, "Chinedu is not just a poor boy from the south. He's a hardworking man who respects our culture and values. If you give him a chance, I believe he'll prove himself. Her father looked at her, his eyes reflecting years of wisdom and struggle. Daughter, he replied, I want nothing more than your happiness. But marriage is not just about love, it's about partnership, stability, and community acceptance. Can this boy provide all these things? Amina nodded, understanding the gravity of her father's words. Yes, Baba. Give him time and he will show you. Meanwhile, in Enugu, Chinedu received an invitation to participate in a regional trade fair showcasing traditional crafts. Seeing this as an opportunity to gain recognition and financial stability, he worked day and night to prepare his best pieces. On the day of the event, he set up his stall under the blazing sun, displaying intricately carved tables, chairs, and dowry boxes. His craftsmanship caught the attention of many visitors, including a wealthy businessman from Lagos. Impressive work, the man remarked, inspecting a beautifully carved stool. How much do you charge for something like this? Chinedu quoted a price, careful not to undersell himself. The businessman smiled approvingly. Good. Here's my card. If you're interested in expanding your business, come see me. That evening, Chinedu called Amina, barely able to contain his excitement. Guess what? I met someone who wants to invest in my business, he exclaimed. Amina cheered, tears of joy streaming down her face. For the first time in months, hope seemed tangible. But challenges still lay ahead. As Chinedu prepared to meet the businessman, a doubt crept into his mind. Could he really build a future that would satisfy both his dreams and Amina's family's expectations? The following month, Chinedu traveled to Lagos to meet the businessman, Mr. Okonkwo. Over coffee, they discussed potential collaborations, and Chinedu outlined his vision for a line of furniture inspired by African heritage. Impressed by his passion and creativity, Mr. Okonkwo offered him a generous loan to expand his workshop and hire additional workers. With newfound confidence, Chinedu returned to Enugu and began implementing his plans. He hired apprentices from his village, teaching them the skills he had honed over the years. Slowly but surely, his business flourished, earning him respect within the community. Back in Amina's village, whispers of Chinedu's success reached her parents' ears. Her father, curious yet cautious, decided to visit Enugu to see for himself. Accompanied by Malem Yusuf, he arrived at Chinedu's workshop, where he was greeted warmly. Welcome, sir, Chinedu said, bowing slightly. Please, let me show you what I've been working on. He led them through the bustling workshop, introducing them to his team and explaining the processes involved in creating each piece. Her father listened intently, nodding occasionally as he observed the operation. After the tour, they sat together in the shade, sipping tea. You've done well, young man, Amina's father admitted grudgingly. But tell me, how do you plan to support my daughter if we agree to this union? Chinedu took a deep breath, knowing this was his moment to prove himself. Sir, I may not have much now, but I promise to work tirelessly to ensure Amina never lacks anything. I will respect her, honor her, then cherish her as the treasure she is. Her father studied him carefully, searching for any trace of insincerity. Finding none, he sighed deeply. Very well, he said finally. I will consider your proposal. But remember, a marriage is not just between two people, it involves two families. You must be prepared to bridge the gap between ours. Tears welled up in Chinedu's eyes as he thanked Amina's father profusely. That night, he called Amina, unable to contain his joy. Your father visited me today, he told her excitedly. He said he'll think about it. Amina gasped, her heart leaping with hope. Does this mean? It means there's a chance, Chinedu replied, his voice trembling with emotion. We are closer than ever before. For the first time in months, both Amina and Chinedu allowed themselves to dream of a future together, one filled with laughter, love, and unity. Yet, they knew the road ahead would still require patience, perseverance, and faith. As the stars twinkled above their respective villages, they whispered prayers to the heavens, asking for guidance and strength. Love, they realized, was only the beginning. True harmony required understanding, a compromise, and a willingness to embrace differences. Amina's father returned home from Enugu with a renewed perspective, but his decision was far from final. He convened a meeting with the village elders, seeking their counsel on the matter. In Hausa culture, such decisions were rarely made in isolation, they required the approval of the community. Chinedu is a hardworking young man, Amina's father began, addressing the gathered elders. He has shown great respect for our traditions and values. However, he comes from a different tribe, a different world entirely. Can we trust that this union will bring harmony rather than discord? The elders exchanged glances, their faces etched with concern. One elder, an elderly woman named Mama Zainab, spoke up. Marriage is not just about individuals, it affects entire families and communities. We must consider whether this union aligns with our customs and strengthens our bonds. Another elder, Malam Abdullahi, added, while I admire Chinedu's efforts, we cannot ignore the cultural differences. Will Amina be happy living far away from her family? And what of her children, will they grow up knowing their roots? Amina, who had been listening outside the door, felt her heart sink. She understood their concerns but couldn't help feeling frustrated. Why did love have to be so complicated? Why did tradition always seem to outweigh personal happiness? That night, she confided in Malam Yusuf, her trusted uncle. They don't understand, she said tearfully. Chinedu and I are willing to work through anything. We want to build a life together, blending our cultures instead of letting them divide us. Malam Yusuf placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Patience, my dear. Change doesn't happen overnight. But if you and Chinedu remain steadfast, even the hardest hearts can soften. Meanwhile, in Enugu, Chinedu faced challenges of his own. Word of his growing success spread quickly, attracting both admirers and detractors. Some praised him for breaking stereotypes about Igbo men being overly ambitious or materialistic, while others criticized him for venturing too far into Hausa territory. One day, an older carpenter named Uche approached him at the workshop. Listen, son, Uche said gruffly, I know you're doing this for Amina, but are you sure it's worth it? You're risking everything, the business, your reputation, even your sanity, for a girl whose family might never accept you. Chinedu paused, considering Uche's words. Uncle, he replied firmly, I've already given up so much for Amina. If I stop now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Love isn't easy, but it's worth fighting for. Uche nodded approvingly. Fair enough. Just remember, though, love alone won't solve all your problems. Be prepared to adapt, compromise, and learn. Encouraged by Uche's advice, Chinedu redoubled his efforts. He spent evenings studying Hausa proverbs, learning traditional songs, and practicing calligraphy to write letters to Amina in her native language. Each gesture was a testament to his commitment, a way of showing her and her family that he respected their culture as much as his own. Back in Amina's village, the elders' deliberations continued. After several days of discussion, they reached a tentative agreement that Chinedu would be allowed to marry Amina, provided certain conditions were met. These included financial stability, proof of cultural understanding, and a willingness to incorporate Hausa traditions into their future life together. When Amina's father relayed the news to her, she felt a mix of relief and apprehension. This is progress, her father said sternly, but you must prepare yourself for sacrifices. Marriage to Chinedu will require patience, tolerance, and resilience. I'm ready, Amina replied resolutely. As long as we have each other, I believe we can overcome anything. With the elders' blessing, plans for the engagement ceremony commenced. Both families worked tirelessly to ensure the event reflected their respective traditions while fostering unity. Amina's mother, initially skeptical of Chinedu, threw herself into organizing the celebration, determined to make it memorable. In Enugu, Chinedu gathered his closest friends and relatives to prepare for the journey north. They packed gifts, including yams, kola nuts, and a beautifully carved wooden chest filled with symbolic items representing prosperity, fertility, and longevity. Chinedu also commissioned a special piece, a pair of intricately designed chairs meant to symbolize equality and partnership in marriage. On the day of the ceremony, the village buzzed with excitement. Guests arrived dressed in vibrant attire, eager to witness the union of two worlds. Amina stood nervously beside her parents, wearing a stunning geli and buba ensemble, while Chinedu entered the compound clad in a regal agbada, accompanied by his entourage. The ceremony began with prayers led by the village imam, followed by speeches from both families. Amina's father spoke first, acknowledging the challenges they had faced but expressing hope for the future. "Today marks a new chapter in our lives," he said solemnly. "We welcome Chinedu into our family, trusting that he will honor our daughter and uphold our values." Chinedu responded with heartfelt words, thanking Amina's family for their acceptance and promising to cherish her forever. "I may come from a different background," he admitted, "but I share the same dreams and aspirations as any Hausa man to provide, protect, and love unconditionally." The highlight of the ceremony came when Chinedu presented the carved chest to Amina's parents, explaining the significance of each item inside. Her father accepted the gift with visible emotion, nodding approvingly. "This shows dedication and respect," he declared proudly. As the celebrations unfolded, music filled the air, blending Hausa rhythms with Igbo beats. Men danced alongside women, laughing and sharing stories. For the first time, there was no division, only joy and unity. Later that evening, Amina pulled Chinedu aside. "Do you feel like we've crossed a bridge today?" she asked softly, gazing into his eyes. "Yes," he replied, holding her hand tightly. "But remember, crossing bridges is only the beginning. Building a life together requires constant effort and care." She smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Then let's start building." As the stars twinkled above, casting a golden glow over the festivities, Amina and Chinedu knew they had taken the first step toward a brighter future, one where love triumphed over prejudice, and two hearts beat as one. The engagement ceremony marked a turning point for Amina and Chinedu, but it was only the beginning of their journey. As the date for their wedding approached, both families prepared meticulously, blending Hausa and Igbo traditions to create a unique celebration that honored both cultures. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Amina spent countless hours with her mother learning the intricacies of Hausa wedding rituals. She practiced cooking traditional dishes like tuwo shinkofa and mayan kaka, ensuring every meal would reflect the flavors of her upbringing. Meanwhile, Chinedu immersed himself in Igbo customs, consulting elders in his village about the significance of ceremonies like knocking on the door and the exchange of kola nuts. One evening, as they sat together under the stars, Amina turned to Chinedu with a question that had been weighing on her mind. "What if we can't find common ground?" she asked softly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "What if our differences become too much to handle?" Chinedu took her hands in his, gazing deeply into her eyes. "Differences aren't barriers, they are opportunities," he replied firmly. "Every challenge we face will teach us something new about each other. And remember, love is the foundation of everything else." Her doubts eased slightly, though she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Marrying someone from a different culture meant navigating uncharted waters, where compromise and understanding would be essential. On the day of the wedding, the village transformed into a sea of color and joy. Drums thundered, flutes sang, and voices rose in song as guests gathered to witness the union of two hearts and two worlds. Amina emerged from her house dressed in a stunning red and gold buba and wrapper, her geli wrapped high atop her head. Chinedu waited at the entrance, resplendent in a crisp agbada adorned with intricate embroidery. The ceremony began with prayers led by the imam, followed by an Igbo blessing conducted by a local priest. Gifts were exchanged, kola nuts symbolizing life and prosperity, yams representing strength, and palm oil signifying unity. Each gesture bridged the gap between the two cultures, creating a tapestry of shared values and aspirations. As the celebrations continued late into the night, Amina and Chinedu danced together, surrounded by friends and family. For the first time, they felt truly connected, not just as lovers, but as partners ready to face whatever lay ahead. The honeymoon period was blissful, filled with laughter, exploration, and discovery. Amina marveled at the vibrancy of Enugu, while Chinedu introduced her to the beauty of eastern Nigeria, the lush greenery, the bustling markets, and the warmth of its people. But soon, the reality began to set in. Life in Enugu proved challenging for Amina. She missed the familiar sights and sounds of her village, the call to prayer echoing through the streets, the aroma of millet wafting from nearby kitchens. Adjusting to a new environment required patience and resilience, qualities she hadn't fully anticipated. Chinedu, too, faced difficulties. Running a growing business demanded long hours and constant attention, leaving little time for personal pursuits. He often returned home exhausted, finding solace only in Amina's presence. Yet even then, misunderstandings crept in, miscommunication born of cultural differences or simple exhaustion. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Amina confronted him. "Why do you always work so hard?" she asked, a frustration evident in her tone. "Can't we spend more time together?" Chinedu sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm working for us, Amina. For our future. Don't you understand how important this is?" "I do," she replied, her voice trembling. "But sometimes I feel like I'm losing you. We need balance, Chinedu, not just success, but happiness." Her words struck a chord within him. That night, they talked openly about their fears and hopes, acknowledging the challenges they faced as a couple straddling two worlds. They agreed to make conscious efforts to prioritize their relationship, setting aside time each week to reconnect and share experiences. To bridge the cultural divide further, Amina began teaching Chinedu basic Hausa phrases and customs, while he introduced her to Igbo proverbs and traditions. Together, they created a hybrid household where elements of both cultures coexisted harmoniously. Sundays became days of worship, alternating between attending the mosque and the church depending on whose turn it was to choose. Despite these efforts, tensions occasionally flared. Extended family visits brought fresh perspectives and criticisms from both sides. Some of Amina's relatives questioned whether she could maintain her identity in such a foreign land, while Chinedu's kin worried he might lose touch with his roots. Through it all, Amina and Chinedu clung to one truth: their love was stronger than any obstacle. They learned to navigate disagreements with grace, embracing each other's differences rather than letting them drive them apart. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Slowly but surely, they carved out a space where two hearts beat as one, a testament to the power of love and the beauty of unity amidst diversity. A year into their marriage, Amina and Chinedu welcomed their first child, a baby girl they named Nkechi Fatima. Her birth brought immense joy to both families, bridging the cultural divide even further. Yet, parenthood also introduced new challenges that tested their bond. In Hausa tradition, raising a child involved strict discipline and adherence to specific customs, such as naming ceremonies and early education in Islamic teachings. On the other hand, Igbo culture emphasized community involvement and storytelling as tools for shaping young minds. These differing approaches often led to disagreements between Amina and Chinedu. One evening, after a particularly heated argument about how to handle Nkechi's bedtime routine, Amina sat alone on the balcony, tears streaming down her face. "Why does everything have to be so complicated?" she whispered to herself. Chinedu found her there moments later, holding her gently. "We are figuring this out together," he reassured her. "It won't always be easy, but we'll make it work, for her, for us." Together, they decided to blend their traditions, creating a unique upbringing for Nkechi. She attended Quranic lessons with her grandmother during weekends while learning Igbo folktales from her father. The couple celebrated both Eid al-Fitr and Christmas, ensuring Nkechi understood and appreciated the richness of both cultures. As Nkechi grew, so did the demands on Amina and Chinedu's time. Running the expanding carpentry business consumed most of Chinedu's energy, leaving little room for family activities. Amina, balancing motherhood with managing household chores, felt increasingly isolated. Resentment simmered beneath the surface until one day, during a rare quiet moment, she voiced her concerns. "Chinedu," she began hesitantly, "I love what you've built, but I miss the days when we had time just for each other. Sometimes I feel like I'm raising Nkechi alone." He stopped mid-task, his expression softening. "I'm sorry, Amina. I didn't realize." His voice trailed off, guilt evident in his eyes. "Let me fix this. Starting tomorrow, I'll delegate some tasks at work so I can spend more time with you and Nkechi." True to his word, Chinedu restructured his schedule, hiring additional staff to lighten his load. He began taking Nkechi to the workshop on Saturdays, teaching her about woodwork in simple terms. Watching her marvel at the process filled him with pride and renewed appreciation for Amina's role in their lives. Meanwhile, Amina sought support from local mothers groups, finding comfort in sharing experiences with others who faced similar struggles. Through these connections, she discovered creative ways to manage her responsibilities without losing sight of her own needs. With Nkechi thriving under their care, Amina and Chinedu decided it was time to expand their horizons. They dreamed of traveling across Nigeria, introducing their daughter to the diversity of their homeland. This idea sparked excitement and apprehension as they prepared for their first family trip. Their destination: Abuja, the nation's capital, where Hausa and Igbo influences merged seamlessly with those of other ethnic groups. It seemed the perfect place to showcase Nigeria's unity through diversity. Before leaving, Amina consulted her mother, seeking advice on packing essentials for the journey. Her mother laughed warmly, handing her a small pouch containing dried herbs. "This will protect you all on your travels," she explained. "And don't forget to wear something comfortable." Chinedu, meanwhile, reached out to an old friend in Abuja, securing accommodations and recommendations for places to visit. His enthusiasm was contagious, infecting Amina and Nkechi with equal doses of anticipation. Upon arriving in Abuja, the family immersed themselves in the city's vibrant atmosphere. They visited the National Mosque and Cathedral, marveling at the architectural brilliance. At the Nigerian craft village, they marveled at artisans showcasing skills passed down through generations: wood carving, pottery, weaving, and more. One afternoon, they stumbled upon a cultural festival featuring performances by various ethnic groups. Dancers swirled in colorful attire, musicians played traditional instruments, and storytellers captivated audiences with tales of heroes and legends. Nkechi clapped along enthusiastically, her laughter echoing through the crowd. Watching her daughter embrace the diversity around her, Amina turned to Chinedu with tears in her eyes. "Look at her," she said softly. "She doesn't see differences, only beauty. Maybe that's the key to our future." Chinedu nodded, pulling her close. "Let's teach her to appreciate every part of who she is. That way, no matter where life takes her, she'll always belong." The trip deepened their understanding of each other's backgrounds and strengthened their commitment to building a harmonious home. As they returned to Enugu, laden with souvenirs and memories, they knew their journey was far from over, but they faced it with unwavering hope. Years passed, and Nkechi grew into a curious and vibrant child, embodying the best of both her parents' worlds. Her ability to seamlessly switch between Hausa and Igbo amazed everyone who met her, while her deep respect for traditions from both cultures earned her admiration within the family. Yet, as she entered her teenage years, questions about identity began to surface. One evening, after returning from school, Nkechi approached her parents with a thoughtful expression. "Mom, Dad," she began hesitantly, "I know I'm half Hausa and half Igbo, but sometimes I feel like I don't fully belong to either side. How do I find my place?" Amina and Chinedu exchanged glances, recognizing the gravity of her question. They had anticipated this moment, knowing that raising a child in two cultures would come with its own set of challenges. "Nkechi," Amina said gently, sitting beside her, "you are not just half of one thing or the other, you are whole. You carry the strengths of both your heritage, and that makes you unique." Chinedu added, "Remember, belonging isn't about fitting perfectly into one mold. It's about creating your own path, drawing inspiration from all parts of yourself. We are here to guide you, but ultimately, it's your journey." Touched by their words, Nkechi nodded slowly, though her doubts lingered. To help her explore her identity further, the family decided to embark on a cultural immersion trip, spending time in both northern and southern Nigeria, allowing her to connect more deeply with each side of her heritage. In the north, they visited Amina's village, where Nkechi participated in traditional ceremonies and learned firsthand about Hausa customs. She watched elders weave intricate patterns into textiles, listened to stories told under the stars, and joined in communal prayers at the mosque. For the first time, she felt a profound sense of belonging among the people who shared her mother's roots. In the south, they traveled to Chinedu's hometown, where Nkechi marveled at the rhythmic beats of Igbo drums and the colorful masquerades during festivals. She helped prepare akara and pounded yam with her aunts, laughing as they shared jokes and wisdom. Slowly, she began to see herself reflected in the faces of those around her. By the end of the trip, Nkechi returned home with a renewed sense of purpose. "I think I understand now," she told her parents one evening. "I belong to both places, and neither. But that's okay because I get to choose how I honor them." Her realization brought tears to Amina's eyes. "You've grown so much," she whispered, pulling Nkechi into a tight embrace. Chinedu smiled proudly, feeling grateful for the journey they had taken together. As Nkechi blossomed into young adulthood, Amina and Chinedu turned their attention to broader issues affecting their community. They realized that their story could inspire others facing similar challenges, couples navigating cross-cultural relationships, families grappling with identity, and communities striving for unity. Inspired by this idea, they founded an organization called Unity Through Diversity, aimed at promoting intercultural understanding and collaboration. The initiative hosted workshops, seminars, and cultural exchange programs, bringing people from different backgrounds together to share experiences and learn from one another. Their efforts gained traction quickly, attracting participants from across Nigeria and beyond. At one event, a young couple approached Amina and Chinedu, visibly moved by their story. "We are going through something similar," the woman admitted shyly. "It helps to know we are not alone." Encouraged by such interactions, Amina and Chinedu expanded their reach, collaborating with schools, universities, and community centers to foster dialogue about cultural differences. They emphasized the importance of empathy, communication, and mutual respect in building harmonious relationships. Through these endeavors, they also addressed pressing social issues, such as gender equality and economic empowerment. By showcasing successful examples of intercultural partnerships, they challenged stereotypes and encouraged others to embrace diversity as a strength rather than a barrier. One day, during a panel discussion, Amina reflected on their journey. "When we started, we never imagined our love would lead to something bigger than ourselves," she said. "But now, we see how powerful it can be when people come together despite their differences." Chinedu added, "Our daughter is proof that unity is possible. If we can build bridges in our own lives, imagine what we can achieve together as a society." Their message resonated deeply, inspiring countless individuals to rethink their perceptions and work toward a more inclusive future. As the years went by, Amina and Chinedu continued to nurture their family, their business, and their mission, proving that love, resilience, and determination could overcome even the greatest divides. As Nkechi prepared to leave for university, Amina and Chinedu found themselves reflecting on the years that had passed. Their home, once filled with the laughter of a growing child, now echoed with bittersweet memories. The empty nest syndrome hit them harder than expected, but it also gave them space to reconnect and focus on their shared dreams. Nkechi's departure marked a new chapter in their lives. She chose to study anthropology, driven by her passion for understanding human cultures and identities. Her decision delighted her parents, who saw it as an extension of their own journey. "You'll bring our story to life in ways we never could," Amina told her during a heartfelt farewell conversation. With more time on their hands, Amina and Chinedu dedicated themselves fully to Unity Through Diversity, expanding its programs to include international collaborations. They traveled extensively, sharing their experiences at conferences and workshops worldwide. Their message of love and unity resonated deeply, earning them recognition as advocates for cultural harmony. One particularly memorable trip took them to South Africa, where they participated in a reconciliation summit alongside leaders from diverse backgrounds. There, they met Tobo and Zanil, a couple whose story mirrored their own, a Zulu man and a Xhosa woman who defied societal norms to build a life together. Together, they formed a global network of intercultural couples, exchanging ideas and strategies for promoting peace and understanding. Back home, Amina and Chinedu focused on mentoring younger generations, encouraging them to embrace their unique identities while respecting others. They established scholarships for students pursuing studies in cultural studies, ensuring that the legacy of their work would continue long after they were gone. Through these efforts, they witnessed firsthand the transformative power of empathy and dialogue. Communities, once divided by prejudice, began to come together, celebrating their differences rather than fearing them. It was a testament to the ripple effect of their love, a small act of courage that sparked change far beyond their wildest dreams. Years later, as Amina and Chinedu celebrated their silver wedding anniversary, they gathered with family and friends under the shade of a sprawling baobab tree in Amina's village. The air buzzed with laughter and music, blending Hausa rhythms with Igbo beats in perfect harmony. Nkechi, now a young adult, stood proudly beside them, her presence a living symbol of their union. In his speech, Chinedu reflected on their journey, his voice thick with emotion. 25 years ago, we stood here as two strangers, bound by love but separated by culture. Today, we stand united not just as husband and wife, but as partners in building a better world. Amina followed, her words carrying the wisdom of experience. Our love has taught us that differences are not obstacles, they are opportunities. By embracing each other's strengths, we have created something greater than ourselves. And that is the true essence of unity. As the celebration continued into the night, Amina and Chinedu stole away to a quiet corner, gazing up at the stars. Hand in hand, they marveled at how far they had come, from tentative beginnings to a life rich with love, purpose, and meaning. Would you do it all again? Chinedu asked softly, turning to her. Without hesitation, Amina replied, smiling through tears. Because every challenge, every triumph, brought us closer to each other and to the people around us. Together, they watched as the next generation danced beneath the moonlight, their hearts full of hope and promise. In that moment, they knew their legacy would endure, a testament to the enduring power of love across boundaries, cultures, and time. And so, their story became part of the fabric of their community, woven into the tapestry of lives touched by their courage, compassion, and unwavering belief in the beauty of diversity.